Good morning. Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fan.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Today is Wednesday, November 20th, 2025. And believe it or not, we are a week away from Thanksgiving. That is interesting. In 2025, I'm going to date myself a little bit, but it seems like yesterday that we were just worried about Y2K. 25 years ago, we were worried about Y2. Well, soon to go. Well, 25 because 26. Well, whatever. Thanksgiving is next week, everybody. I know for some it is very interesting. There are a couple of folks here that we are helping and assisting. But it is Thanksgiving next week. I hope that everybody is doing their best to make plans with family members and friends, Friendsgiving, different events. I have to go get my chitlins. I found out where they are. I have a aunt that literally her chitlins look like sheets of white paper when she's done with them. And I know, everybody is not a chitlins type of person, but I am. And we are going to have chitlins next Thursday. I'm going to spend some time with my mother. And yeah, so let's go in the Java Cafe over on I am Jay Hunt, and Jessica Pierre is on Instagram. Congratulations to Jessica. I want to publicly say thank you to Jessica for her leadership in everything that she was and a part of the Wu administration around communications. She is a knowledgeable, brilliant, pretty, beautiful, inside and out queen. And so, Jessica, thank you for everything. We're looking forward to seeing what you pulled together for the inauguration along with you and Julia. So good to see you in the room. Land on Your Dreams is in the room. We had the opportunity Sunday to spend some time with him and brother Eddie at Savor for their event down there. And good to see him in the room this morning over on Instagram. In the Facebook section of the Java Cafe, Dina Marshall, good morning. Good to see you in the room. You guys continue to keep Dina in your prayers. She is still recovering. Nisi, good morning to you. Good to see you in the room this morning. Mama Java, good morning to you. Good to see you in the room this morning. My sister, she's getting a streak in here in the room for 4 days. Good to see you in the room this morning. Sister Debbie, good morning to you. Good to see you in the room this morning. There it is, Pastor Sharon Cornelius. Good morning. Good to see you in the room this morning as well. Tara, good morning. Good to see you in the room this morning as well. You'll be interested in one of the topics we're going to bring up with the mayor. All right, so Jessica's like her mother's this morning. She's jumping in and out of platforms. I just want to ask Jessica, how does it feel to be free? For you all that don't know, Jessica Pierre, again, was the communications person for the mayor's office, and she is moving on to the inauguration for now, but handling communications for the mayor of one of the world's most popular, currently under scrutiny from DC, handling communications for a mayor who is very strategic and will wait until she pulls a lever or do things. And so, Jessica, with love, just thank you for everything. Nephew, Chris, good morning. Good to see you in the room this morning. We're going to get you booked soon. Opal, good morning. Good to see you in the room this morning as well. You all do me a favor. I heard from the mayor's office. She, I believe, is on her way. Oh, my phone just died. Hold on. Because that would be the worst, to be some communication. All right. Well, there's the mayor. So let me just get the phone plugged up so they can tell me when she has to go. Absolutely. They're getting her set up in the background. She's going to be in a couple of seconds. Mayor, your mic is on, but I don't see your cam. She's tech savvy. But the mayor is going to be in a couple of seconds. We're going to chat with her about a few things. Violence, impact of what's going on in Washington, food equity. There's a partnership with Greater Boston Food Bank. Speaking of that, of food equity, we're also going to speak with Marty Martinez, who is the CEO at the Merrimack Valley, Massachusetts, I believe, United Way. And the governor's office is working with the United Way to ensure that the state is doing its best to support people around food equity, not just around Thanksgiving, but just in general. And so Monday, Marty Martinez will be with us. With the mayor, we're also going to talk about her first state of schools address that took place, and also what came out of that, as well as some folks, are concerned about school closures and things like that. So there's a lot to discuss with the mayor this morning, and we're going to do our best. I got inboxes and texts and comments over the last couple of days, and so we're going to try to do our best to get all of that in there. Hopefully, we can get the mayor in a couple of seconds. Jessica, it is so dope, even virtually, just to see you laugh and smile. Again, thank you for everything that you did and are doing for the city of Boston. DJ J Dex, what's on, brother? All right, the mayor's here. We're going to bring her right in so we don't waste any of her time. Mayor, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I am. You got it.
Let me get all my
you
stuff.
can show it.
I'm in a different space this time. This is the Parkman house today.
So go ahead and show the mic. I'm not mad. I like the little setup. If all you need now is a ring light and you'll be all set.
Right.
Good morning. Good to see you in the room. Let me officially say I saw you that night, but publicly saying congratulations. You are the mayor again. Officially will be inaugurated in January. How you feeling? How you doing?
When was that 2 weeks ago? It already feels like forever ago. Somewhat because there's always something happening, and somewhat because I think we're just trying to move forward, trying to figure out what the next thing is, and I always need to find time to just take it in. And it was an incredible experience over the last couple months, because you get this special moment during an election to actually hear from people what they think, right? And Bostonians aren't shy. People tell you their opinion, but most of the time people are very busy with their own lives and taking care of their kids and elders and all that. But during election season, you get that people just carve out a little bit more time to engage and really think about what our city should be doing. And that feedback is always so valuable and so important to have.
We definitely appreciate the openness to it. And though, it's interesting, and a lot of times here and even sometimes privately, we exchange and not have everything the way, residents or see it, because there's a purview that you have that everybody doesn't. And so with that, I would like to squeeze in, Mayor. We've been doing well. Candidacy is over, so I won't do the speed round rush with you, but I seriously want to squeeze in as much as possible. I think one of the first things, as we are a week out from Thanksgiving, you are intentional about your partnership with the Greater Boston Food Bank. From what you're hearing, I believe it would be Chief Mosso, maybe the Health Commission. What are you hearing about the status of food equity? We saw the whole thing with SNAP. What is a status level as far as where Boston is with food equity, not just for next week, but just, it's interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah. What all of it, okay, let me back up and say, it feels like all the time we're now experiencing the unprecedented, we've never had this kind of crisis happen before, or this or that. And from the pandemic on until now, it's almost been a string of just our families being tested and pulled, our systems being overwhelmed and overloaded. But what each time it has revealed is that these problems are already here long before this latest thing, right? So long before the SNAP crisis and the political games that were happening with the federal regime, people were already having a hard time working, making enough money, taking care of their families, and making choices between medicine and food or housing or anything else that had to happen. So we know the stat is that in 2024, 47% of Boston residents experienced food insecurity at one point. And that, people are often finding ways to make all of the other costs in their budget fit together. But as housing costs are going up, as the cost of food is going up, as childcare costs, energy and electricity to stay warm or keep your house and home at the right temperature, everything is just building up and pressure. And often food will be the first place where people say, well, I can skip a meal in order for my kids to eat, or I'll skip a meal because I need to pay the rent. We live in a city and a country where that should not ever have to be a thought on anyone's minds. And so some of the resources that have been put together because of the SNAP crisis, in fact, were already needed long ago. And not only did we now do a fundraising drive in partnership with the Boston Foundation that supported the YMCA and Greater Boston Food Bank in getting gift cards and support for food insecure residents and those who needed more supports out the door. Over $3 million raised in just a matter of days, helping thousands of families. But we also recently celebrated that it's been 1 year that the city has partnered with a whole coalition, again, including the Y and other organizations, around a food storage hub. So one of the funny things is that we, in fact, have a lot of food go to waste everywhere around the country. And when you don't have a place to refrigerate something, then in fact, it ends up in the landfill instead of having that short window of time where it could be refrigerated, stored, and then delivered to someone who actually needs it, or could turn it into a meal that would make a big difference. So over the last year, with this food hub that now exists in Roxbury, it's cold storage, dry storage, packing space for groups who need to put together bags for their food pantry delivery services, or getting things ready for meals. It's 1.7 million pounds of food that have gone to 1.5 million meals that have been made possible because of just a couple groups coming together and figuring out how to make our resources stretch a little bit further.
It's often said, Mayor, and you've said it, that, we've been here in places like this before, and Bostonians not only will share their opinion, but then also in many cases share their suggestions and opinions. As I said before, one of the things I wanted to ask in reference to, food equity, that brings up things like poverty, healthcare is at risk. And we understand that those impacts sometimes put people in positions where they don't make the best decisions. And often that leads to violence. A two-pronged question here, again, trying to squeeze everything in, and you're used to me asking 8 questions in 3 seconds. In the context of violence, we know, Mayor, I saw the numbers in themselves are down, but as I and you often say, one is too many. With violence, and then how it's somewhat correlated. Also, there was this recent report that came out about, and shout out to what happened with you and Lou and the commissioner with the police contract, and now they have to wear like name badges. Like this reform, it's taken a while, but this is a second time where you got some wins in a police contract. With that said, on the other side, there's this report that OPAT is saying that generally some of the police are not cooperating with interviews and things like that. So can you try to answer both violence and then the OPAT piece? Because I have these things here in sections based on what some folks text and commented about.
Yeah. I think on the violence front, with safety, as with every other challenge in the city, my theory and what I am trying to drive our administration every day is it's not about the Band-Aids and being able to very quickly, rush in once something happens. We really have to focus on systems. Of course, we need to provide support. And in this case, it would be trauma supports and healing and making sure people are connected to all the many resources across the city in a way that helps process, but also bring accountability and justice. But ideally, we start even further before that and put in place systems where we know all of our young people have something fun and nurturing and educational over the summer to do, where they get paid. We have more school year time paid youth jobs as well. We have connections to every kind of social and emotional support. We have resources for families. All of our schools are headed to becoming community hub schools. So there's a whole lot that's happening there. And over the last term, we've really built out an infrastructure, right? A foundation to think not just, okay, it's summertime, we're ramping up, as you know very well, has been a little bit of the the rhythm for many, many years, and importantly so. But instead, every single day of the year, no matter if it feels quiet or if there has been an incident, we are going to be just sort of pushing ahead with the same intensity. And that's meant that we've been able to make some real progress, then double down the resources that are freed up from that into doing even more. And so, I've talked about this a little bit here, but particularly with the outside community in Boston, whenever we see things going well, what I love about our city is that people then say, well, how do we take it to the next level? How do we take it to the next level? Instead of being like, oh, okay, good, we're done. And so we've even gotten even more philanthropic support, more community partnerships once we have proven that this model works, to then keep taking it even further. On the OPAT front, I think what's important to know, and Evandro's been doing just amazing work, again, building the systems up, because we had many, many staffing challenges, many places where, as they started over the last few years as a new agency, the kind of administrative support hadn't been there, and you can't just go out and do external stuff if internally you have so many openings that need to be filled and things like that. So he's really gotten everything stabilized, built up, and on a good track in terms of systems. There's still a piece where how that office was written and formed, and the processes that we're starting to build up need to be more closely meshed together with what the rules already are in terms of the BPD rule book, the union rules, and all of that. So some of this is going to be, OPAT, given all of the other places where there are rules imposed on our officers, OPAT alone doesn't have the authority to do things like compel them, anyone who they want to talk to come in as for an interview or a witness or whatever it is. However, if we negotiated it through the union contracts, if we then built it into the rules, then we start to kind of get everything lined up in the same direction.
It's interesting, just off the cuff, Mayor, in real time, that the timing of the report coming out post you getting this last iteration of the contract through in real time question, do you see that this is something that you will attempt to negotiate for the next contract with the police?
Yeah, there's already we've had lots and lots of conversations, and Commissioner Cox, of course, is working hard to try to make all the pieces fit together too. So I think even before the next go round, well, actually, I'll say we're already at the way these contracts work, basically.
Yes.
So yes, both and is what I'll say. We want to make sure everything is incorporated through bargaining wherever we can. And then the things that we can do before that, or just even without that, we want to do as well.
Mayor, one follow-up question there, and I would ask, they're not in the room here, and I don't see no text, so I'm going to take as much time as I can. One follow-up question there, and we've talked about this over the years. You mentioned youth, and that is an important part of prevention. A follow-up question to the violence piece is, we are seeing the increase of age of those that are involved with these incidents. We're post the 20-year sentences and folks coming home and, not properly being serviced in the Department of Correction, whole nother Zoom in itself. Where is that intentionality of the lack of the good impact of the street workers mixed with, SSYI? There is this piece that still seems to be missing. Where is that for, let's say, the men and young people that aren't going to go into BCYF, that aren't going to go into the Y? That piece, where is that, especially in the context of what we said about food equity? A lot of what we may see where people feel forced to make ends meet for their family is that 30, 35, and up with men. And so can you speak a little bit to that? And then we'll move on to a couple of other things. But I just had to, in real time, ask about that, because a lot of it's the older men that are participating.
Yeah. And I think it's, as you said, exactly, recognizing that you can't just create a program or have something exist and have the existence of it be enough if it doesn't feel accessible, it doesn't feel dignified, it doesn't feel comfortable and convenient to actually be connected to that. So I think for the individuals who are returning to community and on the radar in various ways of the legal system or of our support systems. Dr. Yablo and Boston Public Health Commission, in this sort of expanded scope that his team has now, is really working to make sure that our own outreach is as individualized as possible, understanding that everyone who themselves is, might be coming out of a certain experience or involvement, they're connected to a larger universe of people who, through family or other relationships or different networks, you kind of have to think of that sort of one mini universe at a time. And then for the community members who aren't necessarily, like known people, but just wanting to make sure that our systems actually work. That is why there's been so much focus, through the Black Men and Boys Commission, through other places in the city, to just put the infrastructure out there and create spaces that people don't even have to show up to, ask for or get in line for something. That is why when we did the SNAP response to food benefits being potentially cut, it was not, yes, we supported the Greater Boston Food Bank, but unlike some other places where the response was, well, let's just make sure food pantries can do more. You have to recognize that many families, those who have an experience, including my own, of, when my parents came to this country and experienced what it felt like to get into a system where they qualified for support and very much needed it, and yet it felt humiliating to be a part of it, and the amount of time, the treatment, the this and that. So having ways to ensure that people can continue to do their own shopping at the grocery store with gift cards, rather than just, okay, now you can still get food, but you have to wait in line and kind of change up how you move through your life because of this. We want to, again, have the both and make sure that every possible opportunity is there for people to raise their families, to live their fullest, and in those times of need, to access that need without having to feel like it's a completely different experience.
One of the things, and your former colleague at a different level, former state rep Carlos Enriquez is on, and this is something Dr. Yablo and I have talked about, and I'll ask, not a candidate anymore, but one of the things, and I've mentioned this to you before, audit. There, as you know, there are some organizations that have been grandfathered in for decades, and Mayor, they're not as impactful as they used to be. And so one of the things that Carlos was saying, and Dr. Yablo has mentioned this, is there's going to be an audit of organizations that the measurable outcomes. If you're being funded for X, Y, and Z, you need to, do that. This is my passion place, so I'm going to move on. But Mayor, that is something that has really been on my mind, especially because I don't think we've seen, and you can tell me yes or no. You've said before that it's going to get worse before it gets better, but do you believe we've seen the full impact of what's going on in DC in only 11 months?
I'll say next year's elections are really important to send a signal. And there's, it always feels like we're on to the next thing and the next thing. But I think what we've seen lately with some of the back and forth at the federal level is that it does make a difference when people speak up and the public says enough is enough. When people show up to the demonstrations, when we reach out and it turns into so much pressure that individual, this doesn't really apply in our case because our federal delegation, generally, and certainly our congresswoman and senators have been right with us. But we're seeing now for the first time a couple different examples where, in fact, what the president specifically wanted wasn't necessarily then able to happen because of real public pressure. And that means all of us, including those who might be more aligned and on the same page about the issues, just also refusing to be numbed to it, right? It's exhausting and it is traumatic in its own way every day, but we have to just keep calling out the wrong things that are happening, right? Even just 2 weeks ago, Election Day, at the ICE raid at that car wash in Alston, I was just speaking with the the manager of the business yesterday who said another one of the workers arrived home. He had spent 2 full weeks in detainment and had legal authorization to work and be in this country. So, all of that's going to get played out through the courts. And at least for now, thank goodness, the courts seem to be doing a good job of stopping things that are illegal, but until it gets to the Supreme Court. But even this sort of stop and go of like, okay, we have to wait to see what the court says. And then the period where the harm is already done in between causes that harm to ripple out further anyway. So it is going to get worse before it gets better. But I also at the same time feel like we're seeing signs of proof that when people push back and when we just take charge of our own democracy and are finding the ways to fight and, take a rest, engage, pass it to the next person for a little bit while you make sure you're, able to get back in the fight. But we have to just keep it going and not sit back.
Mayor, I wanted to ask you, and again, I still haven't gotten any drop dead, so I'm going to keep going. In the context of the federal piece and what's going on, you said in your last episode that like certain projects like Blue Hill Ave, would not be started without the confidence that they would be able to be funded going through. One of the messages that I got yesterday in this context was also the Hyde Park, and Mayor, this is the first time I heard this term, road diet. I'm sure you're familiar with the term road diet. First of all, can you school us? And then is there any, I was trying to pack everything in certain sections. Is there any correlation between what's going on in Blue Hill Ave, the road diet piece in Hyde Park, and federal funding? Is there anything there, or can you clarify? And first of all, school us, Mayor, real quick. What's a road diet? I presume it's cutting down use of the roads.
Yeah. So the term means like slimming down a road, meaning usually it means getting rid of a lane of traffic. So if you had 2 lanes driving this way, 2 lanes driving that way, road diet usually would mean something like it goes to 1 lane in each direction, and then you do something else with the extra space, whether it's a bus lane, bike lane, turn it into, open space, whatever it is. Usually it's meant to slow down the traffic and make it safer for people to cross the road, because when you're trying to cross with 2 lanes and a crosswalk, even if you get the car closest to you to stop because they see you, sometimes the car driving next to them in the other lane won't see you and then will keep going even as someone is in the sidewalk. And that's often how we get injuries or even worse. And so this has worked in a number of different places where it has felt safer. Sometimes it can have, the point is that cars are going slower and it's a real trade-off. So is a road being used? Let me put it this way. There are multiple ways that a road is being used, and we have to find the right way so that we are ensuring safety for everyone, first and foremost, people crossing the road, seniors who are walking, kids who are trying to get to school, and people who are driving, who are also on their way to get to work and school and all of the above. In places where it's a residential community and a residential street, often it makes a lot of sense to really prioritize the sort of slow down of traffic, particularly on side streets. We want cars to go at a speed where we will not see major injuries. That can be frustrating for people who are used to driving a lot faster, but also everyone has to recognize that when they were driving really fast, that had impacts on the people who were living on that street. But everyone's interests have to be balanced and together. I was on a different call-in show when some people came and asked about Hyde Park Ave near Forest Hills. So this is one of the busiest corridors in the city. A lot of car traffic as people are getting from sort of the southern part of the city to JP and downtown. Buses all the time from Forest Hill Station coming out. And now more residents who live right near the station because of the residential development that's happened there. And there has been an ask from some of the neighbors who live there to take it from 2 lanes down to 1 in order for it to be safer and slower and all of that.
Near Forest Hills?
Exactly. So this is a major thoroughfare though. And again, there's different interests and priorities depending on what your usual use of that roadway is. And I was just saying, we need to really make sure we're hearing from yes, of course, the people who live right there and are having to experience crossing that road every day, but also this is now tens of thousands of people who need to access that way to get to work or get around the city. And so we have to find ways to balance everything, and it's complicated.
Mayor, last question. I did just hear that I got about 3 minutes left. So I'm going to ask you to squeeze in first. And Mayor, I'm going to put you back in candidate status. In 1 minute, tell us the significance of why you went to Nova Scotia, because some pushback that I had seen online and given directly to me was, we got all this going on here, mass incarceration, violence and whatnot. Haven't been on scenes, haven't been there, but went to Nova Scotia. I get history and whatnot. Can you just give an update why? And if you can, 15 seconds of it, answer that piece about mass incarceration scenes and things like that.
Yeah. There is so much happening across the city every day. And the most important part of my job is to make sure that our residents are safe and that I'm doing everything that I can to protect and to manage public safety, to try to make sure that all the daily ways that quality of life is impacted by city services is there. I am also not the only person who works for the city of Boston, and there are a lot of really incredible leaders and city team members who I am able to check in with and make sure are managing things, like our police commissioner and our coordinated response team and everyone else, so that even if I am not physically in a location, then that we always are prioritizing what we need to do. In this case, the trip to Nova Scotia was something I felt that I had to do given the state of the world right now. And I wanted to recognize that Boston is a city that does take care of our neighbors. That's our neighbors here in our community, and also our neighbors who we have historic and longstanding relationships with. So every year for decades now, Nova Scotia has sent Boston a gigantic Christmas tree. It's the holiday tree that gets put up on Boston Common every year and lit up, the biggest one in the city. And they send it to us as a thank you and a reminder of how closely we were connected. Over a century ago, when they had two explosive ships that had explosives on it collide in their harbor in the middle of World War I, it was 2,000 people who lost their lives, 10,000 people who were injured, more than 20,000 people who were immediately homeless because of how big that explosion was, the biggest at any point in time before the atomic bomb was invented. And it happened pretty close to where we are, in a community that we have a lot of economic ties to, et cetera. And so Boston was the first community to rally and send help for them, sent nurses and supplies and doctors. And that train that got there in the middle of the winter helped make sure that their doctors and nurses and everyone could take a break and actually then get back to it. And so that's been a reminder of who our city is, that when we need to step in to make sure something happens and do the right thing, that we do. And even in these times when the public narrative is that we attack each other, we are, turning on this and that and trying to divide, that Boston continues to say thank you and remember the importance of these bonds that can go beyond borders, but also last across different generations.
So it was basically, Mayor, it was a relationship, and I hear some messaging. Mayor Menino, if you remember Brad Swain, he had this event-driven policy model. I told Jessica I need to get her the paper. He wrote a whole paper on event-driven policy that Mayor Menino used to use, and I heard messaging there too. So relationship, long-standing, and messaging, and I definitely hear that. Last question. We have a wonderful sister that has been with you for a long time. She's technically still with you, but she's just like, Mayor, this is the first time in a long time I've seen Jessica on. She was on Instagram. She was on Facebook. She's laughing. I asked her, I said, how's it feel to be free? In respect to, managing your community.
Free, but now also tied up, right?
You better come on, Mayor. I want to give you the opportunity to talk a little bit about the inauguration, and then also any love you want to show to Jessica Pierre, who, can I just ask an off the cuff James and Michelle question? Yes or no? Do you agree that managing communications for you is a hard job? Yes or no?
If by hard you mean impossible, yeah,
She did it though.
it
She
takes
did it.
genius, it takes patience, and it takes real vision and just a deep, deep love for the city. So I don't know. I can't see Jessica, so I can't see her reaction now, but she is transitioning over to lead the creative experience for all of inauguration. That is the swearing in ceremony, that is the evening festivities, and also activations throughout that whole next week in the neighborhoods to really connect everyone to the experience of where we're headed and how we're going to keep pushing forward in the city. So I love Jessica. I just, from our very first meeting a long time ago to every experience in every unexpected way, often the last voice in my ear, the first voice that I turn to about how do we really communicate what we're doing to put residents first and also make sure people are brought in to not just learning about what's happening, but actively shaping it and making our city everything that we are and everything that we could be.
Mayor, I just got the text that someone wants to make sure they keep their job. So do you remember the stuff that went on with the city council presidency? Yes or no? And I'll let you go.
Why are we ending? Wait, which?
Someone just asked. This was a community question. Just isn't me. Someone said, "Are you asking about the city council?"
Okay, what
Mayor,
about it?
Mayor, it's a lot going on, and that lets us know that you're not you're on, as we used to say, you're focusing on the other side of five. Us pundits know that at any time, if you want to report, you could, but no, I'm messing. It's a resident asked. So, Mayor, I'm going to let you go. 20 seconds. Thanksgiving greeting to the families and residents of Boston.
It is that time of year where we really double down on remembering all that makes our lives possible, all the many, many people, all the many, many helping hands, and all the loved ones who sacrifice and who give for the city to be who we are and for each of our families and our homes to be filled with love and joy. So please, please, please enjoy a wonderful Thanksgiving. I know it can also be a really tough time of year if you are missing those who are no longer with us or really just kind of in this very complicated, difficult, expensive, hard time in our world, feeling that and having to move through that and work and sacrifice even more because of it. We want to make sure that everyone who might need support knows that the city is here. If you want to give support, if you want to do both, please reach out to us as well. We'll be out and about in the city trying to make sure that we can fill in where possible with a special holiday meal, our volunteering, and our, most of all, checking in on our neighbors and saying thank you for all that you are and thank you for making us who we are.
Mayor, thank you. Happy Thanksgiving to you, Connor, and the children. And this is Mayor's first or second Thanksgiving?
First, yeah, just born in January.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Wow, she's going to be a year old. Okay, ma'am, get you out of here so we can always have you back. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much. Folks, I hope today was informational to you. Donna Janke. I seen that pop up, and I'm going to get in trouble because I kept the mayor 12 minutes past what we okay. I don't think I'm in that much trouble. All right. Because now she's late for the next thing, and my apologies there. I believe we got to everything that people reached out to me about. I asked a question of one of the viewers in Nova Scotia. Asked a question about this. We didn't get to go too much into the state of schools and school closures. We'll try to handle that next month. We talked about the holidays. We talked about post-election and also the impact of the High Park roll diet, which I never heard of. So it's interesting trying to, because I tell you all, when the flyer goes up, the unsolicited, some that are in communication, we talk and whatnot. Hey, Jimmy, da 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 da. Are you, going to do this? Some from people I don't even know. You ain't hit a like or share or nothing. And so, but hopefully I did well at compiling what the viewers solicited, and well, not solicited, but unsolicited, for commentary and questions. Just a couple of things. 9 a.m. this morning and 9 p.m. this evening, we are sitting down with Angie Allison, who is a sister that was brought to my attention by Joey Bennett of Yard Time. And we're going to sit with her this evening as we're going into Thanksgiving next week, and we're going to hear her story. And of course, it's going to end with thankfulness, but please plan to, it is after dark. She has a very interesting story that is going to be real and authentic. And so we're going to have a Java After Dark. And I'm trying to hold this sneeze. We're going to have a Java After Dark this evening at 9 p.m. So please plan to join us. Also, don't forget on Monday, November 24th, as we go into the Thanksgiving weekend, we are going to chat with Marty Martinez of the United Way. So we can further hear, as the mayor mentioned, the Greater Boston Food Bank. And oh, wait a minute. Hold on. First of all, Steve, the thumbnail. Okay. This is a good brother. I won't do too much, but this is a good brother that is a low-key silent storm around equitable policy. And right there on that seaport and then in other places. Sir, it's good to see you in the room. All right, Miss Teresa is in the room. Please continue to keep her in your prayers. I got a progress report this morning, and Christina Melendez, I think I sent an email back, I think. But we have some follow-up coming. Good to see you in the room. Also, Paul Malcolmus from the Norfolk Codman Triangle area. Good to see you over on Instagram. These glasses, Jesus. The real voice of God is in the room. Carlos Enriquez was on as well. Yatunde and others. Dina said, thank you for always bringing us great information. I do my best. And I see Squeaky is in the room as well. Brother Carlton. All right, I'm not going to get into naming names. I'm going to get ready to go. Thank you to the Boston Globe. Thank you to Boston Magazine for the invite. And thank you to the Boston Globe for the partnership. We had the opportunity yesterday to attend day 2 of the Globe Summit and also speak with Ron Dorsey, who is the CEO of the Eastern Bank Foundation. And this brother, I'm going to drop the interview later this evening, or maybe tomorrow because we have the show this evening, or maybe Monday. I don't know. But we had about a 7-minute interview with him about equity and economics as it pertains to reviving the economy here in the state of Massachusetts. And so thank you to Anthony Hightower, Janae Alsterhold, Chris Vega. He's going to get me over at Boston Magazine and everybody there. Joanne Edwards just jumped on over on Instagram, a real estate mortgage before marriage queen. I know Alex wrote the book, but he wouldn't have had the lessons learned if it wasn't for you. You could tell him I said that. All right, we're going to get ready to go. We'll see you all this evening at 9 p.m. Thank you all for being with us. I think that is it for announcements. Thanksgiving morning. We have done this for the past 5 years. 2021, 22, 23, 24. Wait a minute. 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So for the past 5 years, this will be the 6th year. We are going to come together on Thanksgiving morning. See, I know Joanne. I know he wouldn't have been able to write that book without him. We are going to come together on Thanksgiving morning, probably at about 10 o'clock, and we're going to do our little Thanksgiving shenanigans about what to do about the drunkard uncle, the auntie that brings a different boyfriend every year, to y'all seen the meme going around and young people come in high And while somebody's praying, one of the young people pass out. Just some real, just a little ratchery Thanksgiving fun on Thanksgiving morning. So please plan to join us next Thursday morning at 10 a.m. I see Tracy Mullins is in the room. Good morning, sis. Good to see you. All right, folks, I'm going to get ready to go. Now, today I need to get down to the Boston Medical Center's conference to join them down there. So we'll see you tonight at 9 p.m. Thank you for being with us this morning. And remember, as today is technically Thankful Thursday, remember to express, even if it's just to yourself, intentional gratitude with all that's going on. If we focus on our gratitude, it helps when the other things comes to fight us and sometimes put us in a space where we're not so thankful for those things. It was a lot there. So see you.